JP, mate, it's great to see you again. It's actually nice to see you in office, by the way, but we're still only, 15, 20 meters apart on Zoom, which is a bit ridiculous, but that is it. To everyone here today, congratulations on what is going to be a great year that you're going to have for everyone, and still having the passion to learn, I think, is really, really important, JP, because what we do now will affect us in 2022, and all the hard work that we've done in 2021 doesn't want to be thrown out. And all that, we're going to have changing opportunities, we're going to have changing platforms, tech, whatever it may be moving forward, but it's very exciting. But to see so many people still wanting to learn this stage of the year is absolutely awesome. Mate, the market out there is still strong. We've still got some great buyer demand. Numbers dropping off for quality is good, is the information I'm getting from everyone out there. There is a volume of listings still to come to the market, and considers
Let's get you unmuted, Dean. Sorry.
Sorry. Is that better?
Yep.
Still coming.
Yep, good.
Still, I don't know where we were with that, mate, but to still see the volume of property coming to the market, even this late, the 25th of November, campaigns going. And we had a forecasting meeting the other day, and there's still a lot coming on. So we're going to be working through right up to it. So I think that motivates, and what matters is such an important thing for us, and obviously having that vision and intent for 2022. So I look forward to hearing your feedback. I'm sure the team want to know what's happening around the universe that you work in, and more importantly about some sweet things that we can do to set us up for the very best 2022.
Amazing, Dean. Hey guys, it is so awesome to be here. Who would think that we would get to our last training session? Welcome to the end of November and the start of December. This is an awesome time to be in real estate. We're going to talk about a lot of key things. Great to see some faces we haven't seen for a little while. Jamie, lovely to see you. It's been a little while since I've caught up with you, but let's talk a lot about what we're going to be doing to really get this level of momentum for this next stage of the market. So big thumbs up if you are ready to jump into our session today. Are we right to go? We are good to go. Let's get this thing up off the ground. We have got a great power-packed 45 minutes for you for a whole range of things that we can be doing to be highly successful inside of this sales environment. So let's have a quick look at it. Big thing to kind of realize, we're going to play a little bit with mindset initially, just getting you kind of focused. And I love that, the great quote by Wayne Gretzky, one of my favorites of all time, you just miss 100% of the shots that you don't take, right? So this is about thinking, where are the big opportunities for you over the course of this next year that you're going to be setting ahead? And let's leave behind whatever 2021 was and get really prepared for what we're going to be doing in 2022. And this is such an important part around what it is that we do in business today, about making sure that we've got that fresh kind of energy, that whole idea about what we want to be doing next. And I love this, that a satisfied motivator is certainly, a satisfied need is not a motivator of behavior. And that's what you want to be thinking a lot of. It's like, the secret here, without a doubt, is to work with people that literally have got some unsatisfied needs. And whether or not it's our buyers who haven't bought yet but want to do something before Christmas, whether or not it's our sellers who maybe are in a position that they're trying to make that decision about, do they go now or do they wait till the start of next year? Or whether or not it's even you as an agent who's kind of maybe looking for a bit of motivation in what has been a pretty average year from an emotional perspective, and certainly all the different waves that we've had coming at us. So I love that whole idea, the John Combat Zim quote, that we can't stop the waves, but you know what, we definitely can learn to surf. And this is a really important part. Next year, we've got some new waves, baby, and we've got to make sure that we can get out there and go and surf them in a really powerful way. One of my favorite quotes, I'm opening all of my sessions with this at the moment. This was one by Gary V. Interesting conversation. He says at the end of the day, accountability, right? Empathy, gratitude, patience, optimism, self-awareness, tenacity, and kindness. Nothing more consistently determines our success than how we actually handle those. And I want you to think a little bit about you as an individual. How have you gone in terms of handling accountability over the course of this last year? Because accountability is not only showing up, it's fronting up, it's actually doing those right types of things, particularly around making sure that you can be in that position, that you are tracking the numbers that really matter. And we know that right now that we need some micro goals to get us through. We've got an incredible 3.5 to 4 week sprint until we get to Christmas. That whole idea is that literally the first 2 weeks are probably going to be better than the last two. Let's really front load these next 2 weeks with some discipline. If we need a price reduction, let's do it today. If we need to bring something to market, let's do it today. If we need to list for next year, let's do it today. And why delay what we can do today? Really important part of what we're actually doing in this overall level of success inside of the business. And what is important as a part of that is to get yourself in a position that you realize that you've got to have this extraordinary passion for business, and you've got to have that obsessive commitment to actually serving customers. And I love that as an whole idea, because at the end of the day, we live in a world right now where we've just been through the biggest residential boom that we'll probably ever see inside of our real estate careers. We're writing records. We're in a position that you're probably going to have a record amount of GCI that's been written in such a short period of time. And the secret is that without a doubt, that you've got to realize that literally with that brings a ton of opportunities and a ton of challenges. And I love this quote by Reid Hoffman. He says, don't feel fatigued by the repetition. Be energized by your single-minded focus. And I want you to think about it. If you just said to me, Josh, I want to make a really simple commitment. I'm going to go a 45-minute call session at the start of my business day. And for those 45 minutes, I am just going to choose a great call list of people to go after. I'm going to get on the phone. I'm going to ring every single one of the buyers that have been through a private appointment or come through an open for inspection with me in the course of the last 7 days. And I'm, just going to start having that conversation. Anyone who's been through private appointments the last 15 weeks, anyone who's been through any of our opens over the last few weeks, let's get back in and see who are really the buyers in our marketplace today. And as a part of that conversation, isn't it easy to do that? If you just get on the phone and ring them, you just go and have that conversation. You just go, hey, I'm going to get on the phone and ring Hannah and say, hey, Hannah, it's Josh. I just thought I'd give you a really quick courtesy call. I'm in this position. I had you down that you're looking to buy. And I just thought I'd quickly check in to see, have you found anything yet? Did you still have an appetite to purchase? Had you bought locally before? And what are your plans with your existing when you go to buy the next? And literally in 4 questions, you turn buyers into sellers. And that's the lesson, right? This whole idea is that it's about making business really simple, about making that decision to go all in on the things that really matter. And I love that because this is about making sure that you go to perform at your absolute best. So choose some data sets. Let's go after some particular call lists. Let's go and create opportunity, right? I don't call it prospecting. I don't call it lead gen. I call it creating opportunity. It's like, hey, what do you want to do later? Want to go create some opportunity? Absolutely, we do. And that's such an important part. There's a difference between knowing the path and walking the path, says Morpheus, from the Matrix. And I think a lot about that. It's like, okay, great. What are the things that we know that we've got to do, but what are the things that we're actually doing? And the difference is that those people that do really well in life have a really minimal margin between what they know they should do and what they actually find themselves doing. And there is absolutely no secret that those people that book more private appointments, that get in front of buyers again, that get in front of market appraisals, that get in front of listing appointments, absolutely win on the inside of this career. And you can't send the buyer off to an open home now and say, oh, yeah, no, you can go through it on Saturday. If you get an opportunity to take them through for a private appointment, we do it because we try and extract an offer. We try and see whether or not we can get them to buy that particular property rather than hoping that they might remember to turn up on Saturday. At the end of the day, what you know is not as important as how you think. And what you've got to be starting to think about is that, I need to be getting ready for this new set of waves that are going to be coming next year. We know that we're into a new set of conditions. This is about where O'Brien really plays at its strength. We've got to be really good at price reductions. We've got to be really good at getting buyers through properties privately. We've got to be really good at making sure that we read the play of what needs to happen next in order to be able to go and get that particular property sold. And this to me is a really important part of that conversation because our ability to adapt, to be agile, is what makes us seriously good on the inside of this business. And I love that because what we're really trying to get you to think about is that you don't need an invitation to play big inside of your real estate career, right? So if you have a look at it, let's go and have a quick, analysis of the business and say, okay, great. Over the course of this last year, how have you gone? Like, what's been your best lead generator? Like, how have you created opportunity? So if I go to your profile on real estate or domain.com.au and I literally bring up every single listing that you won, and then I just ask a really simple question, how did you actually meet that particular seller? Because it probably wasn't open for inspections. We didn't do a lot of those, right? It probably has been through the private buyer appointments, the past market appraisals, the past clients, maybe a little bit of the community work, but not as much because we didn't get out there as much. And really being in a position that we start to think about what has worked and what are the things that we're going to amplify for our results for the start of next year. It's this whole idea that we've got to pivot instead of panic. Like literally there's a lot of agents right now go, hey, what do we do? How do we do a price reduction? There are actually agents inside of our own network that have never seen a marketplace where prices go down. They only think that prices go up as they have over the course of the last 18 to 20 months. And this is that whole driver that we've got to get back to the best skill sets that we've actually got. And I love that because, for you, if you have written great income this year, please make sure that you create a little slush fund. Prepare for what's next, rainy days, wild storms, big waves to surf, get some money set aside so that you can stay confident regardless of what happens. So as we know that literally 2022 cannot be the same as 2021 in terms of price growth. We might see more volume though, but literally it's going to be a different type of volume. People will feel more confident to be able to move in a balanced market where they can rely on the number that they'll get when they sell, and they can rely on the number that they're going to need to pay in order to be able to go and do that particular transaction. And this is an important conversation. If we go and have a look at it, it's about getting to this whole idea about what's important now. Hopefully you're using that at the start of every one of your daily directions meeting, in your sales meetings, in your property management meetings, in any meeting you go into, about really getting that focus. So what is important now? Well, I mean, a lot of people say last trade day is probably going to be Saturday, the 18th of December. Saturday after that, you're going to be at Christmas Day, right? Can't do opens. So you got to be in a position you start thinking, okay, I've got to work powerfully. I've probably got 20, 22 days, probably in a position I'm down to about 15 to 20 work days max. I really need to start thinking about what do I actually want to achieve over the course of this next little period. And then being in a position that your first open for inspections for 2022, when are they going to be kicking off? So, are you going to be going on the 8th of Jan? Maybe that's a bit early. Maybe the 15th of January, though, definitely. If you do some opens on the 15th, then the 22nd, then the 29th, you have a quick look at that, you could possibly be having your first lot of auctions out the door on the 29th of January. And then off the back of that, maybe it's February 5, where you definitely have auctions kicking. And I get people say, but Josh, in my marketplace, we don't launch properties until after Australia Day. Well, you know what? That thinking is old school. The world has changed. This is now what we have learnt: pandemics, booms, recessions, technology. It doesn't worry about your traditional holiday periods. What is massively important now is that we have actually found out that when people go on holidays, you know what they do? They take their mobile phones with them. Real estate, domain.com.au statistics reveal Christmas Day, Boxing Day, New Year's Day. Off the back of that, the majority of January can be some of their biggest days on record with people actually looking at residential property. Now, why would that be? You're actually in a position that all of a sudden you're going out there and you're saying, you know what, I'm here with my family. I either want something different or a bigger house to move into with them, right? So this is all about the mindset. It's about getting your flywheel moving. Now, I'm not saying don't have a holiday. I definitely want you to have a holiday. If you're going to do some auctions on the 18th of December, do them early. Come to 10 o'clock, bang, in the car, off to the beach, go and do something else. And what we're trying to get you to consider is that if you go the 18th until the 31st of December, that's 12 days. Then you go from the 1st maybe until the 12th of January, that's another 12 days, subject to getting approval from your director. That's like 24 days worth of annual leave that you could have. Maybe 3.5 weeks just off, chilling out, not doing too much, turn the mobiles off, all that sort of stuff, but then come back powerfully. And we want to get your real estate flywheel spinning fast. And the way that we get it to spin fast is to make sure that you're doing opens, that you got boards out, you got flags out, you're meeting neighbors, you're meeting buyers. I want people driving down your streets, seeing your boards, your flags, going, these guys are under it, listing their property. We need January to spin quickly. We need February to be really good. We need to have a great March, because in either March, April, or May, we've got a federal election that will be called. And off the back of that, we've also got Easter at April. So we know that literally they press pause on doing residential real estate transactions, not all, but a few. And it literally just starts to get people to sit on the fence. And so we've got to make sure that we've got a great run up to that particular event occurring. So when is your first open for inspection next year? Let's make the commitment today. How many properties do you want to be launching? You might say to me, you know what, Josh, I want to get 5 listings for next year. Great. We put up a little target 5. We go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And then off the back of that, we write one in. We go, great, 4 more to go. Write another one in. Great, 3 more to go. Write another one in. 2 more to go. And that's the lesson, right? Getting yourself into this position that you really start to think about how you can play powerfully with the game. Let's have a quick look at some of the stuff on market. Market stuff is interesting. Heron Todd White can't update the graph. September was the last time they did it. It's supposed to come out monthly. We're at the end of November, boys. Interesting conversation is that literally they see that Melbourne is still in a rising housing market. Interesting enough, we will still see this. In New Zealand, they put up interest rates last month. Guess what happened? Bang, property prices went up 2.5%. Why? The initial reaction is people go and buy pretty quickly to try to lock in the interest rate of the day to avoid the extra interest rates. It doesn't happen then when extra interest rate improvements happen again and again. So what you are in is an environment that literally we still will see some bumpy price growth, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down over the course of the next 12 months. Interesting enough, the national property clock in relation to units, same thing. They have Melbourne at the start of the recovery. Why? When you're locked down for a long period of time, people didn't want to be in an apartment. They wanted to be in a house with a yard. They wanted to be in a position they say, you know what, we want to do something a bit different. And this is that whole driver about understanding that there is a group of people right now that have been given a deposit that should be investing in property. Think about this. If you've owned a residential property and it's gone up by 20%, that now means that right now you're actually in a position that, that as a part of that conversation, that you've actually got some really good things happening because landlords have picked up 20% equity in their principal place of residence, plus any investment properties they own. Isn't that a 20% equity piece that they could now use to potentially go and buy another investment property? So if you've got listings that are a bit stuck or a bit stale, you're not getting buyers through, do you repitch it? Do you represent it as a great investment? Let's try and get some of those investors in. 30% of the home loans last month, they were to investors right the way around Australia. So we will start to see it return here in Victoria. Let's have a look at the headlines. Interesting conversation. We did see some big movements, without a doubt, happen with the CBA and APRA. You know that this has actually been a great way to put deals together. If you've got the buyer here and the seller here and you're 2, 3, 4, 5% away, we know that literally the changes that were made about the serviceability buffer is actually giving buyers about 5% less to spend. Basically, if I went and got my pre-approval 90 days ago, they might have given me $1,050,000 to spend. If I go and get that reapproval today, they're only going to give me $1 million. So if you've got buyers at an auction, maybe 2, 3, 4, 5% away from where they need to be, and you've got to close it out, this is a great table to go and show, given what actually has happened. APRA has actually asked, the Australian Prudential Regulation Authority, has asked banks to ensure that they've got the ability to limit lending to borrowers with a debt to income ratio greater than 4 to 6 times, to borrowers, and also to borrowers with a loan to valuation ratio greater than 80 or 90%. So they're not going to use interest rates to slow this thing down. What they're going to use to slow it down is they're going to say, you know what, debt to income ratio, you know what, you need a 20, 30, 40% deposit, like some of that sort of stuff. If a market continues to overheat. And this is an important conversation. APRA has also asked the banks to make sure they can properly measure mortgage lending for the purposes of investment. There you go, might pull the investors out. Lending on interest-only basis, might say, you know what, you can only lend out, you want more people on principal and interest. And any loans that combine those with a higher debt-to-income ratio and LVR levels. So they're saying, get ready. We're going to work out how to slice and dice here to remove some of the buyers from the market. 2014, 2015. 50% of the home loans were to investors. When they needed to slow the market down, they said only 10% of home loans can go to investors. You pull 4 in 10 buyers out of that market. That's a quite open, right? That's less people competing to try to buy a particular property. Also off the back of that, Melbourne's property market, which spent stretches of 20 and 21 in lockdown, saw the share of discounted listings fall from 11.1% in October last year to just 3.5% in September. That number has now bounced to 7.5% last month. Basically, this is the beginning of the discounting. Agents that got it wrong at the listing presentation having to go back, reprice the asset in order to be able to go and get it sold. Happening everywhere. In Sydney, let's have a quick look at the Domain report. Vendors are now slashing their asking prices in the middle of a sales campaign. It's risen by 2.6 percentage points to now 9%. So basically 1 in 10 properties in Sydney are now getting a price reduction. And that has more than doubled to 7.5% in Melbourne over the 4 weeks to the end of October. So what I'm trying to get you to think about, like literally we are here, it's a new market and we've got to find a new way to go and play that game. Now, a couple of little things I just want to work with you on, and I really want to get you focused on some of the skills, right? So let's have that idea. We've got to bridge the gap between what we know that we've got to do and what we're actually doing. And the secret is about thinking differently about how the business works. And every single business needs a vision. And who sets yours? Well, that's you. As a salesperson, as you go back and you reflect, your kids are going to get their end of year report card. I wonder who's going to be writing that. Is that you or is that the school? Because I think you've been doing a lot of the teaching, right? But they're going to get the end of year report card. How do you actually make sure that you've got an end of year report card of how you went as a salesperson? Couple of key numbers: average sale price, volume of transactions, what your average fee was. What was some of those things? What was your average marketing spend? What was your core markets? You should know some of that so that you can be more dynamic around, making some decisions around what you want to do next year. Are you going to increase your average sale price? You're going to increase your average fee. You're going to increase the volume of transactions. What's the plan, Stan? To be able to make sure that you've got a great year set for next year. And, discipline creates the opportunity. I'm not asking you to be there all day. I'm saying first 45 minutes of every business day, who are the people that you want to ring to get your listings to start next year? And that's a really important part of what we do. So we're going to have a look at the 3 specific lists that the best agents that I work with are really honing in on. I want you to make sure that you got that seller hit list. I keep literally speaking about this because it's so important. Who are the people right now that literally you've pitched on, you're about to pitch on, that have got an agency agreement with them, that you're waiting to come back, that have got a proposal out there, that you know, and literally we're hoping to win that. And this is like at-risk business. So what can we do today? Can I introduce them to a supplier? Can I get a stylist over? Can I try to bring a buyer through? Can I get another agent from O'Brien through? Can I introduce them to a solicitor? Whatever it is. Those people are massive. Probably 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people on that list at any point in time. You're reviewing that every day. What can I do? How can I make it move? Secondary conversation, all the market appraisals. Don't be too good for this. Best agents in the country ring in every market appraisal they've done the last 2 years. What do we do with those particular people? We just go and have that conversation with them. We say, hey guys, I just want to literally open you up just around a few little things. I'm just a little bit worried. I'm a little bit concerned that you might be relying on the numbers that I gave you. We know that the market has shifted quite considerably over the course of the last 12 to 24 months. And I just thought I'd give you a really quick question and say, hey, what do you reckon your property's worth now? What are your plans? What are your next steps? How have things progressed? And the best question of all, which is in your O'Brien training manual, if I had a buyer, could I mention yours or should I sell them something else? Then working that buyer-seller list with massive levels of intent. In my area in Balmain, where I live, interesting conversation. The property around the corner sells for 3.65 million. It literally was expected to sell for 3.1. It means I probably picked up $500,000 in equity. 4 of the agents ring and say, hey, do you want to sell your house? I said to them all, yeah, happy to sell. We got to find me someone to buy. First agent goes, well, you can rent. No, I want to buy. The other 3 agents are like, okay, great, good luck with that. 2 out of those 4, they've listed a property in the last 2 weeks. It could have been the perfect upgrade for me. And this is that whole idea. Isn't that crazy that they wouldn't pick up the phone and ring? And this is what great agents are really doing. Who are the people right now that are on your buyer-seller list that you know that if we find them something to buy, then they will naturally sell with O'Brien? And it's about getting into this whole idea that we've got to improve the way that we do business. And one of the things around that is that you meet someone, they go into that database. Then what do we do with our past clients, our market appraisals, and buyer-seller list? Now, I've additionally worked on this since last time we spoke. And one of the things that I've worked out is that most agents, when they go to a market appraisal, if the client says, hey, I'm not selling, they go, oh, cool. You go back, you write a letter of appraised value. We ring them, maybe a week later. Hey, do you want to sell? They say no. You're like, all right, let me just leave them in the database. What I'm saying is that, you know what, we need a market appraisal follow-up menu, like a list of cool ideas of things that you could do. That may well be in a position that you could add them to the market appraisal category, sit inside an agent box. You add them to your buyer-seller list, which you review every Tuesday. You're in a position that you add them to the buyer-seller weekly email for the total market listings, the total sales that have actually happened in and around your marketplace. You're in a position that you ring them about justice and just sold calls as they happen. You're in a position that you call them because we had an underbidder on a similar property. Hey, Hannah, I thought I'd give you a quick call. We had this underbidder on Smith Street. I was thinking about your place. I was thinking, you know what, it'd be perfect for them. Is there any chance I can show them through? Maybe off the back of that, we call them because we've got something of interest that they could go and buy. Josh, I just want to ask you a quick question. Can you give me an hour on Thursday? I want to walk you through 2 properties, see how close they come to suit your requirements. Then off the back of that, we connect them to some of our property service suppliers, like lawn people and painters and, stylists and all that sort of stuff. And maybe we invite them to a great auction you're going to have on the weekend or to an open or something that you've got going on. So you see, it's about creating the experience. And this is what you've got to start thinking about. We live in the experience economy. How are you going to go and playing the game? You've been so down here in this tactical way of just dealing with stuff and I'm busy and stressed and I need a holiday, as opposed to getting strategic to go, you know what? Junior Josh comes and joins my team. We do a market appraisal. Once we do the market appraisal, we walk out of that, we go, bang, which one of the things that we've got in our follow-up item right now that we're going to go and ring this person, connect with this person, have a conversation with them about. I love that, right? We now train customer experience in this way of happy, anxious, sad. Think a little bit about this. If you're a buyer, you decide you want to go and buy, that's a happy moment. When you decide you want to go and buy, you find the house you want to buy, again, that's a happy moment. You go to that first open for inspection, you see that perceived level of competition, that's an anxious moment. You ask the agent if you can make an offer, they say, oh, too early. They discourage offers, that's a sad moment. Off the back of that, all of a sudden, the agent advises that they're now taking offers, that's an anxious moment. You move into this position that then you go and make an offer, that's a happy moment. They ring you the next day and say, hey, you're now in a multi-offer situation. That's an anxious or a sad moment. You then move into a position that you increase your offer. That's an anxious moment. And all of a sudden they ring you and say, hey, you're the successful purchaser. That's a really happy moment. This is what we do in business today. A little place we call Disneyland, right? You go to Disneyland, go to get on the ride. They say wait time 40 minutes. All of a sudden you get in the line. Oh man, it's 40 minutes. You then get through the line in 15 or 20 minutes. You turn to your partner, you turn to the kids. You're like, how quick was that? All of a sudden, yeah, that was quick. Oh, yeah, that was great. How good is that? You go on the ride, you end on the happy experience. That's why we do the vendor reserve meeting. Get the anxiety dealt with so that by the time we get to the day of the auction, it can be a happy moment rather than a sad moment. This is so important. It's about understanding what you do, why you do it, and why it works. In every session, I've spoken about this over the course of the last 6-7 weeks about, getting really good with your buyers, sellers, and what they receive, your market appraisals and what they receive. Who's done it? The knowing doing gap. We know we got to do it, but are we doing it? Where we go through and we build out an email. This is the one that happens to me in Balmain, in my area. List of every listing that's come on market by any agency, together with a list of all properties that have been sold by any agency. It's better than the alerts you get from the portals because this has got the sold results. Gives me a summary of what's actually happening in my area. This makes you seriously good in what we go to say with our buyers. It makes us seriously good as a part of that conversation around what we got to do with our current sellers. It makes us seriously good with what we do with all of our future sellers when they're there and within that listing lounge room. Commit to the discipline of what makes you seriously good, then be different. Imagine you had this every week, you build it, you send it out to all of those sellers, you send it out to your buyer sellers. You actually then really start to command your marketplace and you know exactly what it is that you're doing. This whole idea is this. In business today, the 3 most important questions: how did we generate our leads over the course of the last 12 months? And what is our plan for how we're going to go and generate leads in the next 12? How do we win our business? What is literally our killer conversation right now that we're saying in those lounge rooms, on those Zoom calls, to be able to make sure that we go to win? What are we doing to make sure that we actually provide this customer experience where we're actually getting people to be fulfilled, where they go, you know what, that was actually seriously good in the way that we go to do the work. This is a time for scaling. It's a time for growing. This is a pursuit to go and serve more customers. And for you as an agent, right, keep your days on market short. Sales process will be massively important in 2022. Auctions will be critical, not necessarily to even sell on the day, sell prior, sell on the day, even sell in the week or two after, to help us to align expectations as markets continue to shift. You've got to increase average sale price, drive up your overall commission. Start thinking about what can you do when the seller sells, where do they move to? When the buyer buys, where do they come from? Think about both of those. They're now markets that you should be playing in and starting to think differently about what you do around that. And that's that whole conversation that you've got to increase your average fee. You've got to get paid more for doing what you already do. If you don't ask, you don't get. It's about having that intention, right? And it's interesting because, you got to increase the size of the market so you can work more of the trade-ins, reduce the cost and wasted effort in chasing business from random lead sources that simply just no longer work for you. And I love this because, now we've got to start to get back to the basics, right? Every market makes a market. As an agent, what do you need to do? You need to be saying, okay, Mr. and Mrs. Owner, how are we going to judge success? Get you sold, get you the best price, make it easy, reduce the risk. But at the end of the day, the way that we do it, we've got to get inquiry. If we don't get inquiry on the major real estate websites, it's because we don't have the right marketing, or maybe we're in the wrong price range with our statement of information. If we've got the marketing right, we've got the pricing right, that leads us to inspections. Those inspections should lead to second appointments. The only reason someone doesn't come back is they don't believe the property represents value in a marketplace. After those second appointments, then we've got our Section 32, contract requests, pest and building requests, you name it. And then hopefully that goes to move to offers. Mr. and Mrs. Owner, this is the benchmark. This is what we should expect by day 7, day 14, day 21, day 28. This is how many inspections we should have, how many second appointments we should have, how many offers that we should have on the property by that point in time. Set the expectations, get them anxious so you can deliver on the happy moment at the end. It's about understanding that every property needs indicators of interest. Get back to being seriously good at what great agents do. This is where the vendor reports now, massively important. Inquiries, inspections, second appointments, contract requests, offers that have been received. What are the positives? What are the negatives? What are the new properties to market? What are the properties that have been sold? Who are the interested parties? Where's the price feedback? And remembering that the skill of a great agent is to make sure that it's no more solo offers, that if you actually do get an offer, that you remember the diagram, the seller's over here, the buyer's here, Most of us think that there's not another buyer. There's always another buyer. We've got an investor. We've got someone who'd buy it for a cheaper price. At the end of the day, this is our next buyer. And what we're really starting to think about is that the seller's out here at 1.4, the buyer's back here at 1.2. Where's the next buyer? If you just present forward that offer, owner says, nah, not good enough. You present forward 2 offers at the same time, one at $1 million, one at 1.2. They start negotiating with the buyer at 1.2. And this is the interesting conversation. The owner feels like they've lost the 200 grand when in fact, that buyer is $200,000 premium that they're now paying well above where the next buyer is. You lose the buyer at 1.2, all of a sudden the owner's actually lost 400 grand. This is the sort of stuff that we've got to do, that we've got to get back to, that makes a huge difference in the way that fundamentally we go and play the game. And I love that because, make sure you've got 2 comparables on display to guide the buyer to where they need to be in all private appointments and open for inspections. Be in a position that you start thinking that you really do get what ultimately you go to negotiate. And I love that because the conversation is this: it's time for you to get some new goals, to plug into some new energy, and to literally get out there and to go and make some great things happen. So without further ado, let's stop there. Let's go to a couple of key things you might have picked up in our training session today, some ideas, things you think I've got to be fresh on to go and make that happen. Hey, Greg, we've got you there. Let's go, man. Let's kick off with you today. 1 or 2 key things you might have picked up in that session. What do you got for us?
I think that don't be fatigued by the repetition, but be energized by single-minded focus has been a good summary for this year, I think.
Yeah, and that's that whole conversation. It's like, it's easy to say you're tired, right? It's much better to have energy. Be the one that gives the motivation, not the one that needs to receive it. Jai, we're just going straight down the list. We've got you there. 1 or 2 key things you might have picked up.
Pivot instead of panic, I think, is a great one. A really good, just short, simple one to live by with that. And it's more important. It's not important what you know, as how you think. So all mindset stuff this time of year and coming into new year, don't let your ego get ahead of you or think next year's just going to happen. Get in and do the work.
Interesting enough, we're going to go over to Paul Rogers. Mate, I feel like you've dressed up for us today. The tie's on, the jacket's on. You're in business mode. You're making things happen as we get to the end of the year. Mate, I've got to ask you the question. When's your first open in January? You go on the 8th, the 15th, the 22nd, or the 29th? And how many listings do you want to have start the year?
Josh, I've actually written down the 8th. I think get back in, get into it. I've got 6 lined up. Not all of them signed yet, but I'm pretty confident that I'll get them. So looking forward to a good January. Things I picked up, I loved what you said about the market appraisal follow-up form, like a list, having all those things lined up. Good follow-up system, I think.
I love it, right? It's just a little menu. Like, you go to the restaurant, now we can go to those, right? And you choose what you want. It's like, bang, that's how I'm going to follow up that person, so that when you're busy and when you're teaching someone else in your team, that then you can go to them. Let's go to our crew in Wangaratta, Simon, and Peter. 1 or 2 key thoughts you guys might have picked up. Let's get you unmuted.
All right, boys, I'll let you guys
Gotcha.
do it. So Simons can do it.
Just asking those 4 questions, Josh, which ends up with prospective purchases, which ends up with, do you have to sell?
Yeah, I love that whole conversation, right? Like, quick question. Have you found anything to buy yet? Did you still have an appetite to purchase? Have you bought in the Northeast before? And what are your plans with your existing when you buy the next? And like, literally, that's how you turn buyers into sellers, right? By just simple stuff like that. Cruising across to you, Brent. Mate, your thoughts for your team? What do you got for us?
Alex just said he would like to speak on our behalf.
It's just like that Wayne Gretzky quote at the start. Just like missing like 100% of the shots you don't take, and just the mindset of doing it now, and getting on track and planning things out. The things you do now are going to come into fruition in the future. So it's getting ahead.
Yeah, big conversation, right? Let's go across to Jamie. You guys have got your big holiday market opening up. A lot of conversations around what will happen down there. December and January is always a big period for you. 1 or 2 key things you guys have picked up in our session today?
Well, 2 really good things I've found is the price reductions and the percentages around that, because personally I've felt that that's happening in our market right now. And also having the 2 buyers just to show that, you're up 200,000 rather than you're down 400.
Yeah, and that's a big conversation. We just did a price reduction for a client on the Northern Beaches in Sydney, and the client had an expectation of 3 million. We're now in a position that we've got them down in a position of 2.6. They're going to sell it around that 2.5 mark. saying we've lost 500 grand. We're saying, guys, at the end of the day, that market grew by 57% this year. It's now come back by 20%. 20% from 3 million is actually around that 2.6 mark. So you're only really losing half the growth that you gained in such a short period of time. You're getting out now as the elevator starts to come down. You're not quite at the penthouse, but literally you're at level 15. You're still doing pretty well. And that's reminding people, what would you have sold it for in January? In that market, they would have sold it for 2 million. They've already picked up 400,000 in capital gain, but they're worried that they didn't pick up that million, but they're yesterday's numbers. Let's go and have a quick chat. Tanya, lovely to see you. 1 or 2 key thoughts from today.
Yeah, I'm with Jai and Jamie. I love pivot instead of panic. That's kind of a summary of our last 2 years. And I think at O'Brien, we've done that best out of anyone. And also what Jamie said too about just getting the mindset back of we may now have to talk to our vendors about price reductions. So you've given us some very, very good tools in regards to the discounts in September versus the discounts in October. They're figures we need to start talking about in our vendor meetings, and also, just making sure that we look like we are absolute experts in our field and using those scripts and dialogues that you've given us.
Yeah, really interesting stuff, right? Like literally you just got to get ready for those next set of waves. And I love that. Like literally this is where we actually play best as a business. Daniel Gallagher, over to you. 1 or 2 key thoughts.
Just going back from what we talked before, the broken systems and working out what needs to get fixed heading into New Year so you can focus on what's going to move the needle. That's a big thing for us.
Yeah, really important part of that conversation. Al Boyle, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, just scale. I'm really focusing on 2022 to scale up, serve more customers. So, looking at where I generate my leads and really just trying to amplify that by, I would like to 50 to 60% of the customers I serve now.
Yeah, it's so good to watch, right? As the team grows and you start thinking about what you're going to go and do next. This whole conversation is, get January out the door and really make it happen. So, team, there's 2 last slides I want to show you before we finish today. One of my favorites of all time is the old Tom Peters quote. He says, we've got to look after the people, right? And that's what we've really tried to do here at a corporate level and certainly in your offices is to look after you. Because if we look after the people, that looks after the service. That's the important conversation, because if we look after the service, that looks after the customer. And then we then know that if we look after the customer actually looks after the profit, right? And if we look after the profit, that looks after the reinvestment. And if we look after the reinvestment, that looks after the reinvention. And think about how much we had to reinvent this year. Digital auctions, hybrid auctions, in-person auctions, open for inspections, private appointments, having owners walk cameras through properties and doing Zooms where you talk over the top and sell properties to buyers sight unseen. Like, it has been crazy. And that reinvention is the thing that looks after the future. I love that as a key quote. As we go to finish today, before I hand back to Dean, I always think a lot about what it is that we're here to do. And I think about it like, for next year, let's have some real intention about 2022, that you actually say, hey, you know what, this is what I actually want to go and achieve. And I love that. The final quote by Hunter S. Thompson, life should not be that journey to the grave with the intention of arriving safely in a pretty and well-preserved body, but rather to skid in broadside in a cloud of smoke, thoroughly used up, totally worn out, and loudly proclaiming, wow, what a ride. And I love that, because it gets you to get this whole idea is that literally, how well have I been living over the course of this last few months? What can I be doing to get ready for a ripping start to 2022? And how do I be the person that literally brings the motivation, gives the motivation to others, than the person who says that they're tired, exhausted, and haven't had a holiday? Change the mindset, flip the script, get yourself back in a position. You've got a high level of energy, a high level of positivity, and literally go and make some great things happen. So Dean, over to you to round out our session today for our tier 1 of our sales guys, and literally to make sure that we can get us into a good position for the start of next year.
JP, another great session, but I'd like to sort of put it out there to everyone. If we thought we were only going to see each other twice in 1 year, we'd actually have a laugh, JP, depending on over the years we've spent so much time. But to everyone who's sitting in this room, I think I stand out and have to say thank you so much for another great year of learning, of mentorship, of coaching. Without you, look, we can't thank you enough. I just can't go on more about it, JP. I love what you said, the ability to pivot instead of panic. And I think that's what this room does. They do pivot instead of panic. And I look so much more to having a better year. And I think this group of individuals that we have here today is just exciting, and so much we can do together next year and all of that. And that leads me to, guys, Saturday night, let's get around each other. Let's celebrate all the successes that we've had over the last 12 months. reach out to people, say hello. It's like, you know, that connection piece is so important. So we're really going to celebrate that. Another friendly reminder to everyone, we've got the Sales Ignite, JP, 2 days back in room down at Cape Shank this year instead of up here at Chadstone. So that'll be very exciting. So we'll be getting a lot out of that. For the change agents, please get involved. It's just a remarkable remarkable award that you can win, and every agent that's ever been involved in it and won it has gone on to do some great things. So I think it's really good. But just as I finish, just want to say thank you again from O'Brien Real Estate, and I can tell you now we've got so much to do and we've got so much further to go as a group and as an organisation. So thank you, mates, and thanks to everyone in the room.
Dean, final thoughts here. I know that we've also got our suburb reports. So guys, they are out and about now. That is on the website so that you can get people to go and get a copy of those. Also, from a marketing point of view, there's some new marketing items, the marketing booklet, the REIV flyer for our listing kits around us being finalists. And also too, some of the colouring in books and stuff are available, you know, for the kids for some of those summer activities. So team, without further ado, it has been a massive year, been incredible to work with you. If ever you need anything, then certainly let us know. Love to help and assist. I hope that you have a fantastic time off. I know it's a bit weird to say it, but we're already at that point. So, hey, Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. Lovely to see you, team. We look forward to seeing you soon. Cheers.
Thanks, JP.
Thanks, Dean.
Thanks, guys.